Hi, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to TYBA revision lectures. I, Dr. Mayurakshi Mitra, Assistant Professor, Maharashtra College of Arts, Science and Commerce, would like to start with you paper 9, Drama and Theatre. But before I start with this paper, a discussion on the paper, I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to Shri Vijay Jadhav Sir, Honorable President, Padma Shri Anna Sahib Jadhav, Bharatiya Samaj Unnati Mandal, Shri Balakrishna Kale Sir, Honorable Executive President, Padma Shri Anna Sahib Jadhav Bharatiya Samaj Unnati Mandal, Dr. Ashok Wagh Sir, Principal B.N.N.College, Dr. Sudhin Nikam Sir, HOD and Chairperson, Board of Studies in English University of Mumbai, for giving me an opportunity to present the paper on drama and theatre. As you all know, students, this paper is divided into 3 units. The first unit, all of you are already acquainted with, deals with some of the subgenres of play like problem play, theatre of the absurd, angry young men theatre, one act play, and a movement, expressionism, and a very important feature of drama and theatre, that is makeup and costume. The second unit consists of 2 plays, Desire Under the Elms and Enemy of the People, of which we have to do only one in exam. And unit 3 again consists of 2 plays, The Zoo Story or The Proposal. However, before I start with the discussion on this paper, I would like to quickly touch on the 3 terms drama, play, and theatre, which are often used interchangeably. However, they have significant differences which are not taken into the consideration often. Drama, as we understand, is actually an interplay of emotions expressed through words and actions. A play is a literary composition of those emotions and actions which we want to express. And theatre is a bigger setup with lots of actors, which involve stagecraft, stage props, light, sound, costume. In TYBA, the syllabus gives us an opportunity to understand a play, a drama, and a theatre. Hence, the 3 units of our syllabus, which consist of some of the different subgenres of drama, the movements, and the technical aspects like costume and makeup that are very much important in a theatre. Coming to the first type of subplay, play, problem play. Problem play is, as the name suggests, deals with a kind of social issue. Often there is a debate, there is a discussion that keeps happening between characters or amongst characters in the play. This type of play emerged during the 19th century, and it was a part of a wider movement of realism in the arts. And the credit of its innovations goes to none other than Henrik Ibsen. So Henrik Ibsen is actually taken as the initiator of this particular type of play. The themes of problem plays are usually contentious social issues like women's rights, unemployment, penal reform, class privilege, and are presented on the stage to conflicting points of view in a very realistic social context. The very famous plays are A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen, Ghost. Doll's House deals with marital issues, conflict in marriage, the position of women, and how a woman deals with it. G.B. Shaw, George Bernard Shaw, is another playwright who had contributed immensely in problem play. His famous plays like Widow's Houses that deal with the theme of slum landlordism, Mrs. Warren's Profession that deal with evil of prostitution, and Arms and the Man, a brilliant satire on the popular notions about love and war, gained a lot of popularity in this genre. Arthur Wing Pinaro is our another playwright who has done very well in this type of play. Henry Arthur Jones, with his Sentence Sinners, The Crusader, The Case of Rebellious Susan, John Galsworthy with his famous plays like Justice, Strife, The Silver Box, have shown the immense potential of problem plays that gives us an opportunity to think deeply into social issues like justice, inequality in society. This kind of problem play, in the hands of George Bernard Shaw, gained a new facade and it became a source of discussion, debate, and ideas. And he brought in a new subgenre of plays known as discussion plays, a play of ideas, or propaganda plays, as many of G.B. Shaw's plays are taken into consideration. Next is a kitchen sink plays, though this type is not included in the syllabus, but it's a very important play or type of play which deals with the realism, kitchen sink realism, that dealt with the awkward topics depicting social realism. It was actually a British cultural movement that developed in the late 1950s and early 60s in theatre, art, novels, film, and television plays. The protagonists of kitchen sink plays were mainly disillusioned ones. They were disillusioned with modern society and would always show their anger, and hence they were labeled as angry young men. These angry young men, as they kept themselves engaged in controversial social and political issues, became so popular that later on developed a new type of theatre known as angry young man theatre. However, though we have already seen that kitchen sink play has protagonists who were known as angry young men, the origin of the term angry young men theatre comes from Leslie Allen Paul's autobiographical book, Angry Young Man. This theatre exhibited an array of protagonists who were expressing the bitterness of the lower classes toward the established socio-political system and toward the mediocrity and hypocrisy of the middle and upper classes. These plays typically feature a ruthless lower middle class or working class male protagonist who views society with scorn and sardonic humor. The central hero, often depicted as disillusioned with the life, dissatisfied with their job and the society where he is unfit and deprived of normal rights, and therefore tries to strongly revolt against the accepted norms and ideas. He is always in conflict with authority, yet he tries to move upward he tries to take or move, climb the social ladder. Hence, the concerns in Angry Young Men movement writings were to show the dissatisfaction of the lower class towards the established socio-political system, which inequitably valued the middle and upper classes and fiercely criticized their hypocrisy, abject position of the youth in society, and how they revolted against the norms and values. Jimmy Porter the protagonist of Angry Look Back in Anger, is probably the most apt example of disillusioned angry young man. He is not only against the upper middle class people, he is also disillusioned with the socio-political system that doesn't allow him to have a good job. A graduate from a red brick university, he is trying to vent out his anger on his wife Alison, who, according to him, represents the upper middle class. The chief representatives of Angry Young Men movement, definitely, we have John Osborne, Arnold Wesker, Kingsley Amis, John Wayne, Colin Wilson. And these are some of the most prominent books that have gained prominence in this Angry Young Men theatre movement. We have with us the next topic, theatre of the absurd. This particular type indicates a range of startlingly different plays written between 1940 and 1960 and were labeled as anti-plays. They definitely did not follow any of the conventions of a traditional play. Martin Aslin coined this term theatre of the absurd, and he referred to the word absurd as out of harmony with reason or propriety, something that is completely illogical. Each play under this type renders man's existence as illogical and moreover meaningless. In fact, the absurd theatre was a reaction to the collapse of moral, religious, political, and social structures following the two world wars of the 20th century. It was highly influenced by existential philosophy. Albert Camus, in his essay The Myth of Sisyphus, points out the absurdity of human existence in modern world. And all the playwrights under absurdist theatre hints at this fundamental philosophical stand. Hence, they deal with themes like meaningless world in which modern human being is existing, his isolation in the society as an individual, and in order to show the meaninglessness with which he is continuously fighting, the isolation in which he is thirst, the dialogues are disjointed. They are repetitions of dialogues. And sometimes dialogues that they say are almost meaningless, purposeless, and it shows the purposelessness of their life and the confusing situations in which they are thrust. The theatre of the absurd had gained prominence under such successful playwrights like Samuel Beckett, Tom Stoppard, Eugene Ionesco, Albert Camus, Harold Pinter. Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett definitely brings or summarizes the absurdity of modern human existence, the philosophy that this theatre of absurd tries to put forward. And so is the different plays of Harold Pinter, starting from The Room, The Birthday Party, The Caretaker, all might seem very absurd, illogical, as if they are not following the rules of a conventional drama. But the reason behind such characters, such disjointed dialogues, is to show the meaninglessness of these characters' existence in a social setup. Expressionism is our next term, and it is taken to be as a modern movement that began in Germany at the beginning of 20th century. The main trend of this movement was to distort physical reality for emotional effect in order to evoke moods or ideas. And here, the main purpose of this particular movement was to give or to emphasize on how we see the subjective representation of the objective things in social setups. These are some of the examples in painting of Expressionism. Now let us come to Expressionist theatre. It completely rebelled against realism and naturalism. If realism and naturalism was more related with the objective reality of our existence, Expressionist theatre or Expressionism as such dealt with subjective way of looking into an objective presence. It dramatized spiritual awakening and suffering of the protagonist. It testified to the failure of social values, and these plays were divided into episodes with very short and static scenes. The stage was used as a platform to comment on social, economic, and political issues of the time. Hence, the characters the characters in this expressionist theatre would reveal their inner psychological reality. They would get involved in such dialogues that were rapid or breathless, poetical or lyrical, and sometimes consisted of minimum number of words and phrases, distinctly lacked interpersonal communication. And that was the best way to bring out the subjectivity of these characters. The stage was used as a platform to discuss political, economic, and social issues. The major playwrights of Expressionist theatre were Bertolt Brecht, George Kaiser, and Ernest Toller. One act play is probably one of the most interesting plays, type of play, I would say, since it is small, easy to understand, and can finish within a very small span of time. It focuses on one main action or problem. Hence, it doesn't have the luxury to have complicated layers of plot. However, the action in a one act play can be divided into several scenes in order to show the development of the play. But the number of characters in an one act play are very minimum. We have a very good example of James Synge's Riders to the Sea, where the development of the play takes place within a short period of time, and the number of characters are not more than 4 or 3 to 4 people, keeping focus on the mother of the last child. Major one act playwrights are Edward Albee, his famous play The Goat or Who is Sylvia, Anton Chekhov, A Marriage Proposal, Joseph Heller, Eugene Ionesco, Arthur Miller, August Strindberg, Thornton Wilder, Cormac McCarthy are some of the examples with whom one act play are closely associated. We have to remember one thing, one act play as such have every possible thing that a play should have. It has a good plot, but subplots are not dealt with. It has the rising action, the development, and the falling action as well. But it deals mainly with the action on which the playwright has to focus. It does not emphasize much on the rising action, which is usually called as the setup, but rather focuses on the development of the action in the middle part. And the time frame, that is unity of time, place, and action, is kept to the minimum. Within it stretches from few hours to maybe few days. Place is usually one place, and the number of actions, as I mentioned, are minimum. Next, we come to a very technical aspect of theatre called makeup and costume. Unless and until the stage is ready with the stage props, that is the setting, light, sound, and we have the characters with full makeup and costume, a play doesn't reach that level of theatre. It is theatre that makes these technical aspects so very important. And the reason for its significance is so that it can reach to the audience. To some, the makeup of theatre might seem to be an exaggerated part. But yes, it is required. It is needed to be an exaggeration so that it is or the character is visible to the last person in the auditorium. And so is the costume. It highlights the story that the character has come to tell on the stage. It indicates the time period which it represents, indicates the type of character that he is involved into, and gives the protagonist or the actor to build a tempo to get into the character. This, a character or an actor in a costume and full makeup is able to establish a relationship with other characters on the stage, and therefore makeup and costume becomes an integral part of theatre. Therefore, how we see that theatrical makeup assist in creating the appearance of the characters that actors portray during a theatre production, enhances his actor's existing features, created creates character features such as age, social status, personality, exaggerate imperfections as and when required, and makes him visible to the audience. Hence, it helps to create a visual character on the stage. These are some fine examples of makeup, costume that creates the mood, gives a hint of the age or the period that they are trying to represent, connects with the fellow actors on the stage, and speak about the character that they are going to enact on the stage. Next, we come to Unit 2. We begin with the first play, Desire Under the Elms, which was written by Eugene O'Neill in 1924. Desire Under the Elms, like his other play, Morning Becomes Electra, signifies an attempt to adapt plot elements and themes of Greek tragedy to a rural New England setting. The characters in this play consist of Father Ephraim Cabot. He is a patriarch of the Cabot family who works on the farm, as described metaphorically as strong and tough as the rocks. Eben Cabot, an angry, grim young man, he is always in conflict with his father Ephraim Cabot and is the son of Abraham's second wife, Abby Putnam, the woman with whom Abraham gets married at the age of 70 plus. She is a sensual, passionate woman of 35. Abby marries Cabot for his land, but falls in love with Eben after moving into his house with her new husband. We have Simon and Peter, two sons from uh, Cabot's first wife, and these middle-aged heart men, they are dreaming of California's gold fields, totally against what their father represents. Ma is Cabot's second wife. While she is always shown as a dead person, her presence, her active presence is not felt on the stage, but her presence keeps on motivating many of the actions in the play. So, in spite of being a dead person, the character of Ma influences his son Eben, and because of his love for his mother, many of the actions are taking place to show her or his love towards his mother. I assume that since it's the end of the semester, you already know the story of the play. So directly I'm going into the themes that are very important in this play of family. A family which is supposed to be the supporting system, the loving and healthy family that everyone thinks of or desires to have, is not found in this play. Rather, this play shows or depicts a corrupt, incestuous, dark, and tangled family. It's a burden, a curse, and the family members do not share the bond of love, affection. Rather, they are constantly in conflict with each other, trying to take revenge for some particular reason. Motherhood is the second very important theme in this play. We have seen Eben's mother as a dead person in the play. She is never present in the play, but she is very dominant on the stage. The way Eben portrays his love for his mother, and for his mother's love, he's hell-bent to take revenge on his father, because according to him, his mother, met an untimely death because of his father's cruelty. The existence of the Elms at, at the beginning of the play, as described, hovering over the small cottage, shows the figure of mother as a representative force, as a dominant force in the play. Abby is the mother archetype, and she develops Eben's masculinity. So, if the dead mother and her love for Eben and Eben's love for the dead mother pushes him to take revenge on his father, it is Eben's or it is Abby's presence that actually help him to take this revenge, because Abby helps to develop Eben's masculinity. Rivalry, this constant rivalry that we see and especially this rivalry is very unconsciously taking prominence between the father-son relationship and the father uh, other two sons relationship. There is a rivalry between the two elder brothers and Eben as well. Revenge is something that is prominently present from the very beginning of the play till the end. On one hand, we see the brothers who were obsessed with Abby are trying to take revenge on Cabot. Eben is trying to take revenge on Cabot because he is the main reason for his mother's death. And Cabot tries to take revenge on Eben for messing up with his life. So revenge is present through all the actions that we see in the play. Lust and desire dominate over the play. Lust for property, lust for women, the desire to marry the woman of, say, some 30 years, who is in the 30s, is why Cabot goes and marries uh, Abby. The desire to have another child in spite of being in the 70s might be taken as one of the reasons for getting married at that age. He is constantly in search of possession, possessing his children, trying to possess security and control through them. But what we see in the play is loneliness. Nobody is connected emotionally with the others in the family. It's a completely disjointed family that shows nothing but broken parts. The characters suffer from profound loneliness, and we have Cabot himself telling others that he finds solace in the field, in the company of the cows rather than in the humans. Eben is lonely, suffering on the farm with brothers who do not understand him. Simon speaks of missing his lover, Jen. And Abby is profoundly lonely as well and cannot fathom losing Eben. Therefore, in order to beat their loneliness, they get involved in their own work. If Cabot believes in backbreaking work at the field, the two elder brothers or two elder sons of Cabot do not really adhere to this philosophy. Rather, they want to own the land, gold mines in California. However, we have Eben, who doesn't mind working on the field, but to replace his father and to take the land on his mother and thereby taking revenge on him for the untimely death of his mother. The strong symbols that we see or that we feel are present in this play. The first one is the pair of elms that are hovering over their cottage. The elms that symbolize the dead mother of Eben. They brood and watch over the house, the actions that take place in the house. The stone wall that, that symbolize the tough Cabot in his hardness, inflexibility, commitment to hard backbreaking work. We have the sky, the blue sky that symbolize an unattainable peace, bliss, purity, and oneness that each of the character desire to gain, but none of them can really attain. Money, is the next symbol, which symbolizes the greed in Cabot and his elder two sons. Money and estate. The reason for why Abby wants to get married to Cabot. And then we have women, symbolizing nature. The elms represent mother. Min is described as warm, like a field, like the stars, and Abby is fertile, hale, sensuous, and hot. So, three categories of women we see, and each of them representing nothing but nature. The play, as it unfolds, we see dramatic irony and situational irony. Irony plays a huge role in this play. The irony of the father, that he is not able to recognize, or he doesn't know the fact that the small infant who is born out of Eben and Abby is not his, but actually Eben. The identity of baby's father, it is only he who thinks that he is the father. Even the villagers, when they come for the party, they whisper, they keep on murmuring in the rumor. Then Abby tries to kill the child, and she, in order to have full possession of Eben, Abby kills the child, but Eben thinks she has killed Cabot. These are nothing but very strong elements of dramatic irony that are used or employed by the playwright in order to develop the situation or to develop, give a tempo to the rising action. There are instances of situational irony as well. Eben's relationship to his father and the sheriff's desire for the farm. Next, very important part of this play is the title. The title, Desire Under the Elms, consists of two very important components. One is desire, the other is elm. Desire again can be seen in different ways. It is the illicit, sensual, carnal desire of Abby for Eben. Eben, Peter, Simon, and Abby's longing to possess the farm, that is the material desire. The long cherished dream of Eben to take the revenge of his mother's untimely death by killing Abbott. Mr. Ephraim Cabot's desire to live up to the age of 100 years, but also for peace and rest. The desire which he probably would not be able to meet at the end of the play. And his desire to have a new wife on whom he can support, on whom he can expect constant support, love, and affection in his old age. Again, a desire which he cannot meet. We have elms, two elm trees that symbolize the maternal forces in the life of some of the characters. As I discussed before as well, these two trees are starkly in contrast with Ephraim Cabot's very tough character. The green hue of the elm stand for the vegetative life-affirming forces that are constantly denied in Cabot's home since the death of Eben's mother. The elms also signify the dead mother of Eben and the wrongs done to her, her unselfish love and lovelessness of Cabot and Cabot's two sons. In a way, the elms represent nature thwarted by Puritanism and how sometimes nature triumphs over Puritanism. Ultimately, these two elm trees represent the brooding and ultimately triumphant fate of the characters in the play. Next, very interesting thing that we see in the play is mythology. We have the mythology of Seneca's Phaedra, and the this particular mythology is presented through three main characters. Hippolytus in the play Phaedra. Here we can equate the character of Hippolytus with Eben, Phaedra as or Abby as Phaedra, and Theseus as Abraham. Now, in Phaedra, we have seen, or Phaedra in Phaedra, Seneca shows Phaedra falls in love with a man against the desire, against the wish of his own husband. How she cheats her own husband in order to or in order to uh, sue this person Hippolytus. And we have seen Eugene O'Neill using this Phaedron complex, which is known as complex where Phaedra complex, where the sexual desire of a stepmother for the stepmother son becomes stark. Here, the moment Abby comes into the house of Abraham Cabot, she starts developing desire for Eben and successfully rises in Eben the desire for her, which is very much like the Phaedron complex. Next play that we have in this unit is An Enemy of the People, a wonderful play that shows the character of Dr. Thomas Stockman, Peter Stockman, Catherine Stockman, the Stockman family, as against a very typical socio-political stand taken by other characters like Hofstede and his publishing house. Coming back to the characters, we have Dr. Thomas Stockman. He is a doctor, a family man, and is fiercely dedicated with social issues. For him, it is the duty that makes more sense, and therefore, he believes speaking truth for the sake of the safety of the civilians that is more important than his own safety. He finds that there are some pathogens in the spring which might cause some harm to the fellow citizens in the town. And therefore, he starts raising his voice, tries to gain attention of the people of the people who are in charge of the city, as well as the newspaper house. However, he is strongly opposed by his brother, who is a mayor and chairman of the board of the Springs. He, since he is in power and is trying to support the government, tries to silence Dr. Thomas. And in the course of the play, we see, in spite of being brothers, they are standing at the two poles. One, that is Dr. Thomas Stockman, trying to put the truth, and Peter trying to cover the truth and showing his own brother, Dr. Thomas, as insane. We have Catherine Stockman, Stockman's wife, and she is a woman, a strong woman who strongly stands, supporting her husband till the end of the play. Petra Stockman is their daughter. She is bright, pretty, politically radical. She is in job as a school teacher. She demonstrates modern attitude. She is very intelligent and witty. But when she starts, and when people in the school come to know she is the daughter of she is the daughter of Dr. Stockman, she's thrown out of job. But she doesn't stop supporting her father and the family, who strongly believe, that what their father is trying to put forward is not because he is trying to establish him as a doctor who is, have found something, and therefore trying to establish his point that there are pathogens which might be, or that might be harmful for the fellow citizens, but the fact that he is fighting against the government that is trying to hide the truth that might cause health damage to the people of the town. We have Morton and Edgev, who are the young children or young sons of Dr. Stockman. On the other side, we have Hofstede, Alskin, and Billing. These three are representatives of a newspaper house. One is the editor, the other is a publisher and chairman of the Property Owners Association, and Billing is the journalist. All of them promise Dr. Stockman that they will support in his endeavor to bring out the fallacy of the spring, how the spring is been infested by pathogens that might cause trouble and health issues for the citizens of the town people, to the town. But as the play progresses, we see the power of the political parties and the power of Dr. Stockman's brother in convincing the newspaper editor, the owner of the publishing house, and the journalist to go against Dr. Stockman. Hence, we see the play is the conflict between what is the right duty and what is the duty of the so-called political parties. If duty in Stockman's sense is duty to the truth and duty to science, he also shows duty to his family, and he feels that he should be dutiful to his town people. And therefore, he tries to bring the truth in front of the people of his town and the government. But he is not allowed to use his freedom of expression. The next very important theme of the play. Freedom of expression, as we all understand, should be cherished and upheld. But here, Stockman, who is a doctor who has studied the condition of the spring and has found that there are pathogens which might be very, very harmful for the health of the town people, is threatened not to speak the truth. Even he is not allowed to print his report. The support that he was getting from the journalist and the owner of the um, house stopped supporting him, in a way curbing his freedom of expression. In spite of these, we see there's something that keeps Dr. Stockman continue with his struggle, and it is his pride in what he is. The pride that he takes in being a doctor and in finding the right thing, the pride he takes to speak in public of the wrong that the mayor and his supporters are trying to do to the townspeople, in spite of knowing that he doesn't have any support, in a way also emphasizes on his sense of duty. So, in a way, pride and his sense of duty allow him to struggle against or to fight against the authority. But power and authority and the people supporting them in order to get all the benefits is on one side and Dr. Stockman on the other. And through this, we see history of two types. One that is trying to put Dr. Stockman into problem, trying to silence him, and the history of controlling the crowd of what Dr. Stockman is telling is not correct. If it is a history of Dr. Stockman to convince the people of the health hazards that might very soon come up through the spring water, it is the hysteria of the political party to keep the crowd under control and make them fight against Dr. Stockman, never to take his words seriously. The spring in the play itself is a symbol of the poisoned and toxic springs that represent the body of politics infected by intolerance and lack of freedom of expression. Whereas Stockman's report represent truth and science. Though he is continuously threatened, insulted, and openly told to keep silent, not to try his way in convincing the townspeople in what on the stand of the spring, he keeps on doing what he feels is his duty. So the report, in a way, stands for the truth and science. The reports are open. The reports are never hidden by Stockman because, in spite of knowing that his life is under threat, because he wants to fight for truth. This is the unit 3. Unit 3 starts with two plays, the zoo story and the proposal. The zoo story is an absurd play, and the setting of the play is in the Central Park of in the New York City. The time is Sunday summer 1959. The characters in this play are Peter and Jerry. Only two main characters, but they speak a volume about our society. Peter is an executive in a publishing house and is a family man in his early 40s. He represents or embodies convention, propriety, and seems to have achieved the American dream. Seems to be composed and satisfied, fully in possession of his stand, social position, and material position. On the other hand, we have Jerry, an eccentric transit in his late 30s. He lives in Upper West Side, that is considered to be a very poverty-struck place, profoundly lonely, contemplative, and very critical of society, and eager to share his opinions about life, love, and isolation with Peter when both happen to meet in the Central Park where Peter was seated in a bench. They keep on talking to themselves. In fact, Jerry keeps on interrogating Peter on different aspects, what he thinks to be important, like life, love, and the isolation that he is trying to fight with. But Peter is completely composed and sometimes replies. Most of the time, he doesn't even think it necessary to reply to him. If he replies, it's only with some nod, yes or no, monosyllabic answers. Through this, what we try to understand, what we get to know, that the playwright is dealing with themes like intimacy, social class, loneliness, with which his character Jerry is fighting. Jerry is profoundly lonely person. Through his discussion or through his words, ideas that he shared with Peter, we understand that for him, intimacy is about something that is completely missing in his life. Therefore, he defies received ideas about personal space and is a critique on the alienation imposed by modern urban society on individuals. We have references of animals, dog, lion, and these in social setups might show two different things. Dog, a pet animal, close to human beings, intimate and creates intimate bond with human beings. The lion, a social distance that is maintained with zoo animals that cannot be tamed or domesticated. But in Jerry's eyes, animals are a source or a way to getting a solution to his social isolation. Animals, in his perspective, suggest that humans have a capacity to be animalistic. Though Peter, in the beginning of the play, is shown as a self defined, civilized, polite, urban fellow, at the end of the play, there is a reference of the lion being tamed in the zoo and Peter being under control of Jerry. So, in spite of having a social status in possession of good material life, a human being is always under control of something. He is controlled by something which he himself might not know, and Jerry symbolizes that social class. Peter represents social class. Jerry, definitely not. But the fact that social class is so very important for Peter, and that is why he has a good job and a family, Jerry strives to have those. The desire for Jerry to have a social class is seen in his attempt to befriend Peter, to stay in a society, to befriend animals like dogs, but he has nothing. There is no material possession and social possession in Jerry. Totally, we see Jerry is a lonely person with no social class, no friends who support or represent these social classes. So, if Peter represents social class, Jerry represents the lack of it. Jerry, in fact, represents urban alienation. Jerry's attempts to find intimacy are counteracted by depersonalization of the urban landscape as seen in Peter. Peter is bogged down by social conventions and illusions. There is a constant failure in communication since these two elements present in one present in Jerry, the other present in Peter, are are in sharp contrast to each other. There is a failure in their philosophical levels, and because they are not able to connect at philosophical or mental space, what they speak also do not make sense to each other. But what becomes very evident to both Peter and Jerry for each of them is that Peter, who represents social class, a conventional with a conventional lifestyle, and a person who has managed to attain the American dream. Jerry is a social outcast. And because he is a social outcast, he's not able to understand Peter. And Peter refuses to understand such a person like Jerry. We have symbols like zoo in the play, bringing out the alienation of human beings. It is the central symbol of the play, and it shows human isolation and absence of contact and communication. Like the animals in the zoo, Peter, though he thinks he belongs to a good upper middle class family, has a very supporting family and a good job, is no less than animals in the zoo, is continuously, constantly controlled by an unseen force, that is the desire to possess life and material in society. And Jerry, on the other hand, is typically like the zoo animals, totally lonely, out of touch with other human beings in the society. And this is very nicely depicted by the playwright through the symbol of bench. In the beginning of the play, the bench is the space where Peter has occupied, is a space that Peter has occupied. The bench symbolizes social and material position, authority, and he is nicely sitting on one corner of the bench, but not allowing Jerry to sit on the other side of the bench, which is empty. However, as the play progresses and goes to the end, we see Jerry threatens his Peter's life, and he is continuously cornered on the bench, and at last he falls down from the bench, which again symbolizes dispossession of social and material possession, of which human beings like Peter are so proud of, through which they feel that their existence has been a very meaningful. But the fact that the bench is dispossessed by Peter not only shows his disposition of social and material possessions, but anytime any human being is under the threat of such situation, absurd crisis. And there lies the absurdity of this play. The existence that you are so proud of can actually be so meaningless to someone else. Jerry and Peter. Jerry symbolizes Jesus, a 30-year-old outcast whose purpose is to establish contact with God, who is a colored queen who wears a kimono and plucks his eyebrows. He is also a symbol of alienated modern man trying to find meaning in this meaningless world. He is sometimes in conflict with himself, and definitely Peter thinks him a meaningless man with no existence. Peter is an average worldly person who is stripped by the irresistible Jerry or his material goods and led towards a revelation of truth. The continuous conversation that takes place between Jerry and Peter on a Sunday afternoon on the bench shows Jerry's attempt to open the eyes of a person who is so engrossed in the material and worldly affections of life. Definitely, these are something that even Jerry is craving for, but by allowing him to such a crisis, he is opening the eyes of us, of we human beings, about the absurdity of our existence, of our life. The zoo story is definitely an absurdist play, and there are continuous characteristic characteristics of absurdism that we find in this play. It departs from realistic characters. There is no realism that we find in the character of Jerry, situations, and all of the associated theatrical conventions. Time, place, and identity are ambiguous and fluid. Though it starts on a Sunday afternoon, where they are, the way Jerry explains where from he comes is so confusing. And definitely, the identity of Jerry is something that is beyond definition. He himself fails to define who he is. And there's a meaningless plots. There are plots where he is trying to tame the dog, where he tells about his meeting the god who represents a queen in kimono. The repetitive the repetitive dialogues that he keeps on speaking, the repetitive questions seem to be very nonsensical, and they are definitely the main features of an absurdist play. The dialogue that we see, or the dialogue that Jay tries to engage in with Peter, is one-way dialogue. It's rather a monologue in someone's presence, because hardly Peter participates in this conversation. And definitely, the very important feature of an absurdist play is the repetitive episodes. Every now and then, Jerry highlights on his isolation through different stories. All seem to tell of one thing: his loneliness, his absurd existence, and the meaninglessness of his life. And this, in a way, proves or helps us to establish the fact that Zoo's story is a successful absurdist play. The last play in the syllabus of Unit 2 is The Proposal by Anton Chekhov. It's a small play of one act play. It's a one act play, and it consists of only three characters. Ivan Lomomov, who is a young man in his 30s, is very anxious, always um, too much obsessed with his health, a nervous wreck who has come to propose marriage to his neighbor's daughter. The neighbor is Stefan. He's a landed gentry in his 70s. He owns land next to Ivan, and he gladly grants permission to Ivan to propose and marry his daughter. Natala is Stefan's daughter, is very witty, jovial, welcoming, but is very dominating. And what we understand from the discussion between Lomov and Natalia is the importance of land estate in a German setup. The themes that we see in this play are marriage, conflict, landowning class, and lack of communication. The play opens with Lomov coming to Stefan, asking his permission to propose to his daughter. The happy father allows him to propose to his daughter, but the proposal never takes place. In fact, Lomov and the young lady gets engaged gets engaged in a discussion on land, estate, their dogs, and who is in position with more lands. In a way, the playwright is trying to bring into our notice the importance of marriage in order to increase the wealth of family through the estate. So, marriage is not because of love and affection. Love, or it is never, the outcome of love is not the engagement of two minds, but to add into the list of some material possession. And hence we see there is a conflict between Lomov and Natalia. Lomov thinks that many of the land estates are his, whereas the witty woman corrects him, telling those are not his, rather theirs. So they move from the proposal where they want to know each other, that takes a backstage. What becomes the major uh, content of their discussion is the wealth, the background, the family richness, and they come into conflict with each other. And it gives hint to the very important part of the Russian society at that time, the land owning class, who would engage themselves into more and more lands to make their way clear towards upper social climbing, towards upper class. Through this discussion, what we come to know is a complete lack of communication between Lomov and Stefan on one hand, and Lomov and Natalia on the other hand. When Stefan calls his daughter to come and meet Lomov, he never mentions the reason why Lomov has come to meet her. And when Lomov and Natalia meet and try to discuss things, Lomov never proposes marriage to her. Rather, they make themselves overwhelmingly engaged in the discussion about their property and the land that they possess, their estates that they are in charge of, and the desire to know each other's mind, whether they are a best suitable pair to get married, is lost. And ultimately, this lack of communication leads to nothing but an end to the play where the proposal is never given to the woman. We have in this play several symptoms, Lomov's hypochondria, which in a way ironically brings the aptness of the title, the proposal. The proposal, he fails to make the marriage proposal to Natalia because of his obsession with his health conditions. He keeps on mentioning of his health issues, his weaknesses. Many a times he falls in the debate that he engages himself with Natalia. He falls to prey to this hypochondriacism that he shows. The oxen meadows are in a way shows nothing but the landed gentry, their obsession with meadows and landed estates in order to claim their richness in the society. Gesser and Messer are two dogs. The dogs that are taken uh, as fighters on the protectors or fighters on the meadows. And both this young gentleman and gentlewoman, they engage themselves in establishing whose dog is more impressive and powerful than the other. In a way, it is again hinting at the social class of that time, when the landed gentry would not only love to possess lands of their own, but also big dogs, farm dogs. And through Gesser and Messer, we realize that the proposal, the marriage proposal, is not that important. What is important is to establish whose family owns a better dog than the other. We can conclude that all the symbols that we see in this play, the oxen meadows, Gesser and Messer, symbolize the desire of the middle class people, the landed gentry, to own more and more land and estate and to claim their position in the society. The title of the play is very important. The title of the play, The Proposal, revolves around Lomov's marriage proposal to Natalia, but it never happens. In fact, what they engage into is to discuss how good and efficient are their dogs, Gesser and Messer. Their continuous debate on whose estate is bigger, who is in possession of how many estate, hints at the fact that what matters for this landed gentry is the financial security. Love, romance, marriage, understanding each other is of no use and doesn't is not that significant as well. If marriage is important, it is important because it brings in some more land into one's family. Therefore, the proposal is not the proposal for marriage made by Lomov to Natalia. Rather, as the play hints, it is a knowing of the richness of the family to whom he is going married, with whom he is going to get married. So, it's not the supremacy of love and romance that happens to take the main argument here. Rather, the proposal takes the back seat and the discussion on their richness, on their material position takes place. Therefore, the proposal of Lomov to Natalia never takes place, and the play ends hinting at the importance of material possession in early Russian society. And hence, we can see the play is not only a one act play, it is also a farce. Typical features of a farce like comical stereotype we see in hypochondriac Lomov, Natalia, and hypocrite Stefan. These people are the comical stereotypes that make this play a farce. There's a lot of exaggeration that keeps on happening, especially in the argument between Natalia and Lomov with respect or during their when they discuss about their dogs, and it becomes humorous, a stone of absurdity. Like we often think, why the hell this man is discussing about estate and dogs so much in detail when he has come to propose or keep the proposal of marriage to Natalia. And this makes the play a farce of the marriage proposal. Marriage, the institution of marriage is not that important. Rather, what is more important is the richness, the rich background of a family to whom a person would get married. Um, this is a kind of a picture I have tried giving, picture of the syllabus that I've tried to cover. Now, this coming back to Unit 1, I'm trying to summarize type of questions that can be asked. Unit 1 usually covers questions on a type of play. What we need to cover is the origin, characteristic features, main playwrights and the main playwrights and their main famous plays. Next, what we can have in the second unit is whether which no matter which play you are discussing and writing answers on, but keep in mind to focus on The characters, definitely you need to know the summary, the characters, the themes, the features of the play, the aptness of the title, the tragedy or comedy, or whether it is a part of Greek, or whether there are any Greek elements in the plays, and uh, like in the zoo story as an absurdist play, or the proposal, a farce, or a one act play. If such technical question comes, uh, uh, you need to emphasize on the features of an absurdist play and then refer to the play which shows, or how does it show these absurdist characteristics. Or if it is a farce, or if it is a one act play, proposal as a one act play or as a farce, you need to show the features of farce, and then how, or how does it meet the construct of one act play. The paper, usually this paper is very simple. What you need to know is that you have to prepare both from the technical aspect as well as from the subjective mm, perspective. If you meet these two, any question and every question will be very easy for you to answer and score. With this, I end a revision of paper 9, drama and theatre. Thank you and all the best.